British Dr. Harold Shipman went down in history as a brazen serial killer nicknamed Dr. Death. Doctors are supposed to help people when they need it most. However, Dr. Harold Shipman proved that doctors don't always save lives, and became one of the most prolific serial killers in British history. Harold Shipman first diagnosed his patients with diseases they didn't have, and then injected them with a lethal dose of diamorphine. The approximately 250 people who died at his hands between 1975 and 1998 had no idea that their visit to Dr. Shipman was the last act of their lives. Harold Shipman was born in Nottingham in 1946. He was a promising student at school and excelled in sports, including rugby. But Shipman's life changed when he was just 17. That year, his mother, to whom Shipman was very close, was given a terrible diagnosis of lung cancer. As she lay dying in hospital, Shipman watched intently as a doctor eased her suffering by administering morphine. Experts later suggested that this was the moment that inspired his sadistic methods of murder. After his mother's death, Shipman married Primrose May Oxtoby while studying at Leeds University Medical School. The couple had 4 children together, and Shipman's life seemed normal. He graduated in 1970 and began working as a junior doctor, but quickly rose through the ranks to become a general practitioner at a medical center in West Yorkshire. It was here, in 1976, that Shipman first encountered trouble with the law. A young doctor was caught forging prescriptions for Demerol, an opioid commonly used to treat severe pain. Shipman became addicted. He was fined, fired from his job, and ordered to attend a rehabilitation clinic in York. Harold Shipman seemed to bounce back quickly and returned to work at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde in 1977. He worked there for the next 15 years before setting up his own practice in 1993. He gained a reputation as a good doctor among his patients and in his community. But no one knew that at the same time the good doctor was secretly killing his patients. Harold Shipman seemed to bounce back quickly and returned to work at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde in 1977. He worked there for the next 15 years before setting up his own practice in 1993. He gained a reputation as a good doctor among his patients and in his community. But no one knew that at the same time the good doctor was secretly killing his patients. It was March 1975 when Shipman took his first patient, 70-year-old Eva Lyons. It was the day before her birthday. In that time, Shipman had been given enough diamorphine to kill hundreds of people, although no one even knew about his addiction until the following year. Although Shipman was fired that year for forging prescriptions, he was not expelled from the General Medical Council, the regulatory body for doctors. Instead, he was given a warning letter. According to investigators, Shipman stopped and resumed his killing spree many times during his decades of terror, but his method of killing always remained the same. He focused on vulnerable groups. His oldest victim was 93-year-old in Cooper, and his youngest was 41-year-old Peter Lewis. Death would then give his victims a lethal dose of diamorphine and either watch them die on the spot or send them home to die. It is generally believed that he killed 71 patients while working at the Donnybrook Clinic, and the rest in his private practice. His victims included 171 women and 44 men. However, in 1998, undertakers in his community of Hyde noticed an unusually high death rate among Shipman's patients, and later discovered at a nearby medical center that his patients' mortality rate was almost 10 times higher than their own. The medics called the Greater Manchester Police. This could have been the end of Shipman's reign of terror, but it wasn't. The police investigation failed to carry out even the most basic checks, including whether Shipman had a criminal record. If they had asked the medical board what was in his file, they would have discovered that he had forged prescriptions in the past. The cunning Shipman also managed to cover his tracks by adding fake illnesses to his victims' records. As a result, the investigation found no cause for concern, and Dr. Death was able to continue killing. Shipman's crimes were finally revealed after he made the mistake of trying to forge the will of one of his victims, 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, the former mayor of his town of Hyde. After Shipman administered a lethal dose of diamorphine to Grundy, he checked the cremation box in her will to hide the evidence. He then used his typewriter to completely write her family out of the will, leaving everything to him. However, Grundy was buried, and her daughter, Angela Woodruff, was informed of the will by local lawyers. She immediately suspected foul play and contacted the police. Woodruff said of the situation, "It was all unbelievable. The idea of a mother signing a document and leaving everything to her doctor was absurd." Grundy's body was later exhumed in August 1998, and diamorphine was found in her muscle tissue. Shipman was arrested on September 7th of that year. Over the next 2 months, the bodies of 11 more victims were exhumed. A police forensic expert also examined Shipman's operating computer and found that he had made false entries to support the false causes of death he had given on his victims' death certificates. Shipman insisted that Grundy was addicted to drugs such as morphine and heroin, and pointed to his notes as evidence. However, police discovered that Shipman had written the notes on his computer after her death. Police were then able to verify 14 more cases, in which Shipman administered lethal doses of diamorphine, falsely registered patients' deaths, and falsified their medical records to make it appear that they were dying anyway. Harold Shipman always denied the murders and refused to cooperate with the police or criminal psychiatrists. When the police tried to question him or show him photographs of his victims, he sat with his eyes closed, yawned, and refused to look at any evidence. The police were only able to charge Shipman with 15 murders, but estimates range from 250 to 450. In 2000, Shipman was sentenced to life imprisonment in Manchester Prison with the recommendation that he never be released. He was then transferred to Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, where he committed suicide. On the 13th of January 2004, the day before his 58th birthday, Shipman was found hanged in his cell. He had previously told his probation officer that he was considering suicide, so that his wife would receive his pension and a lump sum. Shipman's death raises the question of why he killed. A number of theories have been put forward. Some say he may have been avenging the death of his mother. Others suggest he administered diamorphine to the elderly as a way of showing compassion. However, there is also the claim that Dr. Death had a God complex and simply needed to prove that he could take lives as well as save them.